Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Good evening from Nigeria. It's 2 minutes past 8 p.m. here in Nigeria. I warmly welcome everyone to the second day of ELC. Yesterday was a good day, and I was so happy that it was a huge success. All our presenters were good. All the moderators, everyone did greatly. So I salute everyone for the yesterday's success. Today, we are here for the second day of the great ELC. It's been running for years, so it's no longer a new thing for us, but we always have new presenters and new ideas. Thank you for being with us. I sincerely want to thank the team. There are many of us, and there are those who spearheaded everything. I thank Kelly, I thank Steve, and others. Thank you for keeping faith. Thank you for keeping ELC together. So welcome once again to the second day of ELC. We are happy to have you all, and I enjoy you all to stay put and listen to more refreshing, inciting, and educative presentations we are going to have today. I know many people are waiting to learn more from what we learned yesterday. So keep on while we sail on this train that will take us to higher knowledge, free learning, and more things to come. Thank you so much. I'll now hand over to, is that Steve or Kelly? Thank you.
Teresa, would you mind taking over the script?
Sure, Steve. Thank you, Ngozi, for that warm welcome back. And welcome back to our Fall International Conference. How libraries and librarians around the world support entrepreneurship in their communities and campuses. Brought to you by Entrepreneurship and Library Conference, ELC. The ELC hosts free conferences. Excuse me just a minute as I scoot my screen here, team. The ELC hosts free conferences and workshops on how libraries support entrepreneurship in their communities. The ELC is for and by information professionals who support and believe in the power of inquiry and information to transform lives and support entrepreneurial endeavors. Today and yesterday's conference focus on expanding the role of libraries in supporting entrepreneurs. Our goal is to better understand the diversity among entrepreneurs, the range of their needs, and the many ways that libraries are helping them succeed. My name is Teresa Pfeiffer, and I'm a member of our conference planning team. We hope you find today's conference to be educational and thought-provoking networking opportunity. A couple of thank yous we'd like to extend. A big thank you to today's presenters, participants, and the planning team. We're going to share the names of our conference coordinators in the chat, so you have that for reference. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Simply Analytics and Privco, for funding the ELC activities. Thank you. A little on our code of conduct. We do have an ELC code of conduct, and we will share the link in the chat. I'm just going to read 2 sentences here. Each ELC participant has the right to learn, network, and socialize in an environment of mutual respect and professionalism, free from harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. Creating such an environment is a shared responsibility of everyone involved in ELC. Thank you, Jose, for posting the rest of our code of conduct in the chat window. And a little bit of on our ELC housekeeping. Few details to keep today's event running smooth. We've got a lot to cover, and I'll be reminding people in the chat window when you have 1 minute left and when you're all done. Presenters, please keep an eye on your time and look out for those time notifications in the chat. During the speaker talks, please keep yourself muted if you're not speaking, and please keep your video off unless you'd like to turn it on when you ask a question. Comments and questions are welcome in the chat box at any time. Our colleague Jose will be moderating the chat and wanted to let you know that we will be saving the chat questions that are asked during the session. Because those sessions are designed to be short and easily digestible, we unfortunately don't have time to answer all questions during the session. Presentations may include 5 minutes for follow-up questions, while lightning talks will allow 3 minutes, but all sessions will be recorded. If our Zoom is hacked by chance, we will shut down the session and email you a new Zoom link immediately. If you prefer back channel communication, we invite you to use the hashtag EntreLibCon. Now, without further ado, I will turn over to Ginny or Jose, we'll see, Program Director of Libraries at Launchpads, an initiative of creative startups that helps libraries strengthen their support for local entrepreneurs and small business owners. Over to you, Ginny.
Great. Thanks so much, Teresa. I think before I go, I was going to see if Dan or Juan from our sponsors wanted to say a quick hello prior to me introducing the speakers today.
Yes, thank you.
Juan, why don't you go first today? We'll let Dan go second this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. It's great to see so many familiar faces and names. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Juan Vasquez. I'm the support and sales manager for Simply Analytics. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the team, it's a pleasure to be a part of ELC. We're really honored to sponsor this event and support the incredible work that you all do helping to empower entrepreneurs, students, researchers, the communities at large. And with Simply Analytics, we believe that data becomes truly transformational when it's accessible, intuitive, and connected to real-world decision making. So libraries play a really central role in making that happen. So this conference is a perfect reminder of how sort of forward-thinking and essential this community really is. So thank you to the organizers for putting together such a really thoughtful program. We're proud to be a part of this gathering, and yeah, wishing you all a fantastic day too. Thank you.
Thank you. Such a fantastic conference. We are very proud to be helping to sponsor it again. We were founded about 10 years ago with entrepreneurs in mind, doing research on other private companies with very little information out there in order to help their own businesses and to grow them. As many of you know, 99% of American businesses are private, and 90% of the major ones, doing 10, 15 million or more in revenue. And from an entrepreneurship perspective, we just think it's having transparent information out there really helps folks grow their own businesses. And so we are available to anyone here partaking in the conference. Please let me know if you have any questions. We just want to have the best, most complete data sets out there on these US-based private companies as you make all those considerations while trying to grow your own business. So thank you again for having us, and looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you so much, Juan and Dan, and thank you so much for sponsoring the conference and helping make this possible. I'm Ginny Sturpka. I'll be our speakers moderator today. I work with the nonprofit organization Creative Startups, and I run our Libraries as Launchpads program, which supports libraries in doing, the work that we're talking about today, supporting businesses and entrepreneurs through the library. So today we'll be navigating through some amazing discussions together, featuring 3 presentations, 1 lightning talk, and an update on our 2021 conference on cannabis entrepreneurship and libraries. Jose will be dropping the agenda for the presentations in the chat if you want to take a look at that. But otherwise, we are going to jump right in. Our first presenters today are Jay Lehman and Ross Zimmerman from the Seattle Public Library in Washington State with the presentation Legal Consults, One-on-One Learning from Legal Experts. And so Jay and Ross, I will turn it over to you. All right.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Somebody give me a thumbs up. All right, thanks. Hi,
Two.
everyone. I'm Jay Lyman. I'm a librarian at the Seattle Public Library, and I'm joined here by my colleague Ross. Ross, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Ross and I are here. We're going to talk about this program that I'm really excited about, where it's really an example of connecting those in our community with experts in the community. And they happen to be legal experts, which, as you probably all know, our entrepreneurs and nonprofits definitely are looking for that kind of connection. Okay, so let me make sure. Okay. So about the Seattle Public Library, we have about 750 employees at the Seattle Public Library. Ross and I are some of the 10 librarians who focus on helping entrepreneurs and nonprofits. Some of the kind of key things we do are our research and information appointments, where that's connecting people with experts who are librarians, us, which are also amazing, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We also have credit consults, which is a different example of helping people connect with people who can help them hack their credit score. We do workshops, of course, on various topics and lengths and things. And then we're going to talk about these legal consults, which are 30-minute virtual consultations with an attorney with expertise, primarily in corporate law or intellectual property law. I'm going to start by just sharing how the program started because I want to give you a kind of a sense of how we got this going, and Ross and I are going to talk through some of the the bonuses, what we think are some of the plus side, and then also some of the challenges that we run into with doing this kind of work. The legal console started with a partnership with the University of Law or University of Washington Law School, where they had students, third year law students, who would come to the library and they would present on for an hour on topics that they had just learned in their work. It was beautiful. We had, like 15 to 20 people that would come. They would do it in person at the library, and it was fantastic. But then in 2020, I found myself in the situation of shutting all those down and contacting everybody to let them know that we were going to see what we could do and try to make this virtual at some point and all of that. And by the time we got the tools and the system set up to do things virtually, we were already getting nuanced questions from attorneys or from the community that really attorneys could answer better than the students. So we shifted this to a one-on-one consultation by appointment service, and we've never looked back. We primarily do corporate law and intellectual property law, and we'll talk a little bit more about those, but we've also tried some real estate law, tax, and employment law. We've also explored some Spanish language versions of this with interpreters and eager to continue to explore those in the new year. And I'll just say that it's been a very popular service, as you can imagine, both on the attorney side and the attendee side, and everyone leaves with smiles on their faces. And then we have this added partnership with Seattle Office of Economic Development that we'll talk about too.
Yeah.
Over to you, Ross.
Thanks, Jay. So before we talk about what these clinics look like, and maybe if you wanted to implement something like this, how would you go about doing that? I wanted to talk a little bit about the unique selling proposition of our clinics. What makes this special? Why are we committed to sustaining it? Seattle is a very litigious city, like a lot in America. So there's no shortage of attorneys, but many of the entrepreneurs we meet, especially those on the margin, face significant barriers for accessing actual legal help. So this program is aimed at removing some of those barriers. The appointments are free, they're informal, and they're very easy to schedule. The attorneys that the folks are meeting with are often powerhouse attorneys at major corporations. We've worked with Amazon in the past. Right now, we have a partnership with Microsoft attorneys. In many ways, the folks that are attending this clinic would never get time with an attorney like that. And then also here, I said timely and targeted legal information. That's kind of one of our guiding principles, that these sessions are centered around increasing capacity, maximizing the number of folks that could get access to this kind of justice. So on the screen here, I compared it to another, it's like a partner org. So it looks like a head-to-head comparison or something like that, or competition, but we're one and the same. We're working in the same communities. But for sake of comparison, Communities Rise, local nonprofit, they do 1 hour consults, and they do their consults on a wider scope. So they're talking about things like taxes, contract help, well beyond what we do, which Jay mentioned is mainly centered on formation, corporate law, and intellectual property. But with that, we have 30-minute consults, so there's more throughput, and we have fewer eligibility requirements. So whereas Communities Rise does some means testing, and you have to meet certain requirements, ours, people are pretty much able to sign up and go, which removes a lot of barriers. So that's a little bit about why we do it. Now we can talk about how we do it.
Okay, so yeah, as Ross mentioned, we have a partnership with different organizations that help us recruit the attorneys. And right now, Microsoft is our biggest partner, although we do have a couple of other partners. And so what we do is we, upstream, out ahead of the consultations, we set up an agreement with our partner that, like, these are going to be the dates that we're going to offer the consults on. We usually schedule that out, like for the whole year, or like 3 months ahead of time, depending on the partner. And then that gives Ross and I the ability to set up the appointments on our website, so they're bookable from the public. And then on the other side, like Microsoft, they'll like have a internal sign up where the attorneys can sign up and volunteer their time, and then a week or so ahead, we reach out to them, and we share who's coming and all that and kind of connect everything up. And I'll mention that one of the things that we have learned is that there's an insurance, a malpractice insurance, that many attorneys would like in these kinds of situations, and some of the organizations will actually cover their employees who are attorneys with their own malpractice insurance there too.
Yeah, that's a huge piece. I should have mentioned maybe that I was a law librarian for 4 years, and so I've ran clinics in the past, and that insurance piece is a huge component. But once those foundational components are in place, we kind of move into the logistical workflow. So we alternate monthly, thinking of the Microsoft clinics, where we do intellectual property 1 month, we do corporate law the next month. And so once we hear from the attorneys what days, it's usually the last Tuesday of the month, at what time, usually it's 2 hours, we can start the workflow of setting those up. So what that is, we do it on Zoom. And so we set up one Zoom room to handle the 2 hours. And then we use Trumba as software for scheduling. And so with Trumba, for 2 hours, we usually have two attorneys, 30-minute slots, so that's 8 slots that we can make in that time. So 2 at 3, 2 at 3:30, 2 at 4, 2 at 4:30. And so I set those up in the Trumba software, and then I also set up a wait list for each of the slots, and we'll talk a little bit about what goes into that. But once the Trumba listings go live, the appointments tend to fill up pretty quickly. I like to go through our prior wait lists and generate an Excel spreadsheet to compare against who has attended. So are there anybody who was waitlisted in the past few months that was ultimately not able to get an appointment? I email those people and let them know that I recently posted some. It's worth mentioning that during registration, we ask optional questions about demographics, identity markers, where'd you hear about us, that sort of thing. But that's the only required information is their name, their contact information, and what they're hoping to learn. So with that, about a week before the clinic, I export that Trumba data into Excel, make a nice clean table with that name, contact information, what they're hoping to learn, so that I can share that with the attorneys so they have some idea of what questions to expect. Uh, it's been sometimes the case that folks have asked about, corporate law, but it's an intellectual property clinic, so we can kind of get some clarity before going into it. Some attorneys like to do some prep work in advance, but that's not required.
Yeah, Ross already kind of started talking about this too, but I think
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ross. I think you were going to cover this too.
Yeah, sorry for not advancing.
It's
So
okay.
when it comes to the day of, we've had everything set up. We know who's coming and why. So a lot of this is straightforward. We get into the Zoom room that I've already set up, and then I create breakout rooms for each of the attorneys, which are going to serve as the private meeting spaces. So in my email to the attorneys, I invite them to join early. Often the case, it's, if it's the first appointment of the day, they're joining at the same time as the first attendee. And then I start assigning everybody to the room. When I assign people to the room, it's there's 3 points I like to make when people join. This is for the registrants. The first is that the attorneys are there to provide legal information, not necessarily advice. This can be confusing. A lot of people want legal advice, but I explained that the attorney is not going to represent them. It's not forming an attorney-client relationship. They're simply experts looking to share information and not that kind of targeted advice. And going off of that, the second point is that even though there's no attorney-client relationship being formed, we still keep everything confidential. So I encourage people to share as much as they want, and with that knowledge, that it'll be kept confidential. And then lastly, third, I share that even though this person might not represent you, if you do need representation or if you need further resources, you can always come back out of the breakout room to what we call the hallway, the kind of general meeting space in Zoom, because we're happy to discuss resources, of course, as librarians. So after this brief orientation, I manually assign people to their breakout room.
Yeah, so on that day of, we have this really short window to kind of at the top of each hour and the bottom of each hour to make sure that we fill all of the appointments. So inevitably, life happens. Somebody forgets. Somebody can't make it at the last minute. They forgot they booked the appointment. So about 3 minutes after the appointment starts, if we don't have an attendee, we get on the phone and we start calling them. If we learn that they're not coming, then we start working that wait list. And we have this like really short window of time where we could potentially fill the appointment and give them, time. About 15 minutes after the hour, we stop, we give up because, then there's not enough time for the appointment to happen. But in many cases, we are able to fill those, and we've heard from some folks that they feel like they've won the lottery when they get that phone call from us. So they know that these are popular and that people want them.
Yeah, so that's the rough how it goes. There's sometimes, Jay was talking about appointment turnover where things go super smoothly and each appointment flows seamlessly. Sometimes it feels like all 8 slots. We have to call somebody on the wait list, and so it's a huge bandwidth issue. But there's a lot that works great with these. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the first thing off the bat is that there's external handling of the malpractice insurance. I realize that this is a little bit like there's a meme of where it's, how do you draw an owl, and it's 2 circles and the next picture is a fully drawn owl. So I know we're kind of just, and then you get external malpractice insurance. It's as easy as that. It is possible. There's a lot of networking that goes into making such a partnership happen. And I see questions about MOUs and that kind of thing. But that is truly instrumental for how we're able to achieve that. Second, what works is our low barriers to access. People can sign up quickly and easily without means testing, which I think dramatically increases equity. Then, we keep it scrappy. We're always changing things. Jay and I think, change things on a weekly or monthly basis. So with that constant evolution, we're able to meet community needs in a really dynamic way. We also hear that this is a lot of fun for attorneys. They, are usually working very kind of rote corporate jobs, and they don't get to see that kind of frontline action a lot. So they have a lot of fun. And obviously, patrons are very happy with the free attorney time. A little bit about the difficulties. Of course, there are challenges. Without registration requirements or screening, we do get no-shows. It's very easy to register. It's easy to forget. And so with that, there's also some people who register almost every month. It's not that big of a deal, but when we only have so many slots, especially if these people are no-showing, the repeat customer angle does present as a difficulty. Third, it's listed, we're providing legal information, not advice. That's intrinsic to the program. I think just some people need advice, but that's just not what we provide. Then the last pieces there are funding and insurance. A lot of that, we have that partnership with the Office of Economic Development. We have insurance being handled by firms, which is great. But anytime that you're externalizing, relying on external firms, that contingency is, you wonder about what could go away. And so you're kind of at the behest of external forces, which is a little scary, but it's fine.
Yeah, so I guess, and we're almost to the end here, so we'll start taking questions as well too. But some of the newer aspects of this, newish, I should say. One is Office of Economic Development, our local. They're another Seattle department, just like the library is, and we have an agreement with them that we've have a signed interdepartmental agreement, is what they call it. It's like an MOU, and they provide us with some funding that helps us focus on this work, including like buying the Zoom, paying for some of the team members' time and things like this. So that's a wonderful partnership. They also help us find attendees and things that come to these. We also have a new partnership with an organization. They're actually a for-profit company called Leggett LLP. And so this is brand new. We're doing our first sessions on Monday with them, and they're going to focus just on the formation and licensing pieces, not on other aspects of corporate law or things like that. And the other aspect of the new part of that is that everything we've talked about to date until Monday has been virtual. So on Monday, for the first time, we'll have an in-person option for those that want to come in and talk with Leggett LLP. Part of the reason behind the virtual is that we get more attorneys who want to volunteer if we offer them virtual, so it makes it easy for them to be part of the mix. All right, and so I guess
yeah.
we've reached the Q&A. So I'm seeing one question in the chat about MOUs, and I started to answer it, but I'm just going to answer it verbally now. We've had agreements in the past when we had University of Washington as our partner. They're not today, but we had an agreement through Office of Economic Development. Like they had the agreement, and then we also had an agreement with them. But a lot of the other, individual attorneys or some of the other partners, we haven't had an official signed agreement always. But we've been able to, like Ross said, we've been scrappy and been able to make these happen just that way too.
Yeah, it's a lot of communication. I mean, that kind of goes without saying, but Microsoft had a slew of layoffs earlier this year, and some of our contacts were suddenly gone. And so we're just constantly trying to network and find people in that world and that universe. And so if it's not through an MOU, we definitely have a lot of relationships across the board.
Yeah. Oh, one thing on the MOU too. We do have an MOU. We have a contract with Leggett LLP. So that's one example of one where we do have an agreement in place.
Question about no-shows. So there's no downside to somebody no-showing. So they're able to re-register. So there's no kind of like consequence, I would say. With the wait list, we are generally able to fill the time. There are times where a 30-minute slot is empty. The attorneys usually, though, are not distraught or anything like that. They usually are able to do their work in the background, you know what I mean? But that is a pain point, I would say.
Great. Well, I think we're at time, but thank you so much, Jay and Ross. That was really informative, and I'm definitely going to pass on some of this information to some libraries I'm working with right now because we are wanting to do some things like this. So this is great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you for joining. And now we have Dr. Uluwambe Bakare Fatungase with the Department of Information Management at Lead City University in Ibadan of Oyo State in Nigeria. And she'll be presenting with Synergizing Entrepreneurship and Librarianship, a Novice to Expert AI Research Framework Approach. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Uluwambe.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening from South Africa. My name is Dr. Bakari Fatungashe Oluwabumi. And the title of my presentation is Synergizing Entrepreneurship and Librarianship. A synopsis, a novice to expert AI research framework approach. Yeah, let me tell you the story about this novice to expert AI research framework. Yeah. I've noticed that within the scope of librarianship, developing models and theories are kind of what we are not kind of actually used to. So when I went for Queen Elizabeth Fellowship at Carleton University, and interacting with students, I noticed that students are students everywhere. They have phobia for research. And I was meant to do a presentation, and I noticed that they are not harnessing the power that we librarians have. So that was what brought about this novice to expert research framework. And when I discuss with them, I tell them, when it comes to research, there's no big deal about research. All you need to do is just have the proper mindset and allow a librarian who is an anchor, who can anchor you through the research process. That was what brought about the novice to expert research framework. And I've been able to contextualize this framework within indigenous knowledge, within content creation, and bringing it into perspective within the discourse of artificial intelligence. So the main discourse of today. Okay. Sorry. Okay, this is the presentation.
There was sorry to interrupt, but there was a message in the chat asking if you could put it into presentation mode. I think some people are having trouble reading some of the smaller text.
Okay, I'm trying to do that. Okay, because I'll put it in slide mode. Hold on. I'll put it in presentation mode. That's it. Can you see it now?
It's looking
like this.
It looks the same to me, but I think if it's not easy to do, let's just continue so we stay in time.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the presentation outline. I'll be talking about entrepreneurship, AI, introduction to AI impact on entrepreneurship. I know we all know what AI is. This is the presentation outline. Yeah. So we asked ourselves, what is entrepreneurship? We know that when it comes to in contemporary times, Gen Z are kind of business driven, and they delve into the discourse of into the sphere of entrepreneurship, whereby they tend to bring value with different opportunities that they have so that they can impact life. That is, so we can basically say that entrepreneurship is just like creating a value. And within the discourse of library and information science, we know that the Raghunathan law plays a fundamental role when it comes to library and information. That is the basic tenet of what we do. And within library and information science and entrepreneurship, creating a synergy, we can see that Librarians are pointers to entrepreneurial opportunities, just like we are pointers to different information when it comes to any identified societal issue. The fundamental societal issue that we face in contemporary times is what entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial opportunities, which has been brought to bear even more with the discourse of AI. And the Raghunathan law, I've been able to contextualize it within the discourse of AI. And I said that the first law, which is books are for use, are now books are for use by entrepreneurs. Then the second law, every book it's used at, implies that every AI is entrepreneur. Then the third law, every user is a book, every entrepreneur is a AI. Then the fourth law, do not waste the time of the library user, is contextualized that do not waste the time of the AI user, that is the entrepreneur. And the fifth law, the library is a growing organism, implies that what AI and entrepreneurship are growing field, implying that when it comes to the discourse of entrepreneurship, librarian plays a fundamental we play a fundamental role. And AI, knowing that in these contemporary times we cannot do without AI, there is the need for librarians to ensure that our Gen Z are equipped with the AI literacy skills that they need. And we know that when it comes to AI literacy skills, it represents what the technical knowledge that Gen Z need in order to be able to navigate the difficult space. And this implies that they have to have what the right attitude required to thrive in this world influenced by AI. Entrepreneurship is not domiciled within library and information science. Library and information science is the driver of entrepreneurship. And all these are weaved around what making appropriate use of artificial intelligence. And when we now talk about entrepreneurship, AI, library and information science, we can say that entrepreneurship plays a fundamental role in contemporary time, like I said earlier, and artificial intelligence is a driver. Like if Gen Z have the appropriate knowledge that library professional can infuse to them, automatically they are going to transcend into providing entrepreneurial ventures that are sustainable over time. And we know that Gen Z, despite the fact that they have internet culture, that is what they have the mindset of seeing AI as a co-creator or as their partner and advisor. Despite that, they still have a lot of things that they struggle with, which is a kind of global concern. And with a global concern, like I said, in spite of AI,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you stop sharing your screen and then reshare? We're not seeing the same slides that you're on. You might need to stop sharing and then reshare.
Okay, I should stop sharing. Okay, stop share. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to reshare, please. Okay, can you see now? Can you see the slide?
We can see the slides.
Okay.
If you can go to the lower bottom, there's a icon where you can put it on full screen, right to the left of the minus sign.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Perfect.
To the that I use.
The one to the left of the minus sign.
Yes, I don't know why it's not coming up.
I don't mean to interrupt the thing, but if you look at you're right there. It's right next to the one of that.
Okay.
Well, it's right in there. It should be that one that looks like a.
Can you see it now?
No.
You can?
Cannot.
I don't know what is happening.
It's just not in presentation mode, and that's where that should be. Try that.
Okay, I'm trying to do that. I've clicked on it. Wow.
I think it's the weird L shape next to the minus sign. So
Yes, I'm trying to have clicked on it. It's not responding.
not the arrow ones.
I know. Can you see it now? Is it
I
clear
don't
now?
think it was double clicked. That was the problem. You had it there, but you didn't click on it. You just kind of showed it, but you didn't click on it.
I'm clicking on it.
No, it's the one next to that, to the right.
I think
Yes.
the issue is that it's
To the right, that's what feel, yes, window view. Clicking on it is not showing.
This is Steve from the ELC. It might be a software issue, and we only have 10
I
minutes
don't know.
left for
It's
this
not coming,
talk.
it's
So
not coming up.
why don't you just proceed as you were?
And Steve, I sent you the slide. If you can share it, I wouldn't mind.
We could try that too, although we only have 10 minutes left. But if you send them to me, I will certainly do that.
Yeah, I sent it to you. You can check. I sent it to you yesterday. It's not coming up.
If we can just continue, someone asked if the PowerPoint could be shared maybe afterward.
Okay, shall I
Or
continue?
Steve, if
The
you could
presentation
drop it
mode
in.
is not coming up.
Yeah, if we can just continue like this, and if Steve, you could drop it in the chat maybe if you find it so everyone could view it.
Okay. Yeah, so like I was saying, I said that there's a global concern in spite of AI dexterity that is being showcased by Gen Z. There's lack of AI information literacy skill. There's a lack of ethical standards. There's AI regurgitation, whereby they just accept whatever AI brings to them. They lack this kind of depth. They lack the vigor that is supposed to be expected, and lack of critical thinking skill. They just accept whatever AI brings to them. They do a kind of copy and paste, and they lack entrepreneurial research skills because they kind of feel that whatever AI brings to them, they might not need to do a kind of research about it, and AI research skill as well. So this is the novice to expert research framework, the initial one that I developed basically for research, and is a mnemonic for research, and it starts from N, novice, which implies that when you start any form of research, you start as a novice. But when you go through the due diligence of research anchored by a librarian, automatically when you finish, when you get to age, you become an expert. And it goes vice versa. So if even a professor is delving into another field that he or she is not comfortable with, he or she becomes what? A novice. But the professor or the expert might not need to start from RE again. All he needs to do is just to search. And this is what I brought to bear in creating the novice to expert AI research framework too. And with this now, the R signifies that the Gen Z reach and read. That means that they are reaching out to the librarian. When they reach out to the librarian to understand what artificial intelligence is and what entrepreneurship is, and contextualize it within a particular domain. Then E to ensuring that what emphasizes the importance of contextualizing research within a specific domain, and T implies that they sieve through the generated content, AI generated content, so that they can see that it fits into the area in which they are contextualizing their entrepreneurial venture. And E means what? They examine, they analyze the various types of what data produced by AI technologies, with attention to their origin and sources. This talks about what AI integrity and devoid of regurgitation. And A implies that they assemble all these AI generated content, and R implies that a kind of orientation whereby they kind of create a synergy between their own thought and what AI has given to them. And C implies that they collate and edge up in terms of what creating these research articles out. And at the end of the day, the logic of the synergy implies that what? The logic of the synergy implies that when entrepreneurs are situated, when entrepreneurs imbibe the discourse of artificial intelligence anchored by a librarian and hinge on the novice to expert research framework, what do we have? We have an entrepreneur that has the baseline knowledge of what AI is, artificial intelligence is, and what entrepreneurial ventures truly are. And with this level of awareness, that means that they are accepting the fact that they are entrepreneurs and they use artificial intelligence for their own good. With using artificial intelligence, that means that they are fortified as entrepreneurs because they have what? They have foresight. They are able to change their perspective about different things they've identified, different value they want to create, and at the end of the day, they provide a sustainable entrepreneurial venture. And these novice to expert research framework was contextualized within a study that I presented at the African Indigenous Knowledge Research Network in Uganda. And we did a kind of quasi-experimental research. And we were able to bring students from Emmanuel Alan University of Education, those are entrepreneurs, students that are into entrepreneurship startups. And we were able to do a kind of like rigorous 1 month training with them with these novice to expert research framework to train them. And at the end of the day, we saw that respondents were all novice when it comes to embarking on serious research before creating content, because they believe that they just have to just create content. They just have to delve into their entrepreneurial mode without identifying a niche that they need to carve their entrepreneurial venture around. And at the end of the day, respondents did not see the need for data content creation to embark in any form of research, and they were not aware they could even use AI for content creation, as they were amazed by the output of the team's interaction with Meta AI with DeepSeek. They saw the level of interaction we had with these AI tools, and at the end of the day, we were able to guide against regurgitation, and they saw the need for being critical minded at the end of the day. And also, during this study, we were able to employ Bloom taxonomy to show that, okay, they are entrepreneurs. With every entrepreneurial venture, you need a level of cognitive skill. And with the Bloom taxonomy, with the remember content, there are like 6 levels: remember content, understand, apply, analyze, and at the end of the day, we saw that respondents show a level of intellectual cognitive skill when they employed the novice to expert AI research framework. And they also understand the content, and findings reveals that one of the respondents stood out in this regard, as they were able to imitate another skit maker instead of just copying and pasting. And also, in evaluating content, the findings reveal that respondents just embark in creating content that they believe suit their passion, which in long run is logical to fill a gap. That means that they have a cognitive skill to show that, okay, they need to understand that they have to take cognizance that they are filling a lacuna, that there's a gap that needs to be identified for every entrepreneurial venture. And at the end of the day, the peak of the Bloom taxonomy is to create content. And when we talk about creating content as entrepreneur, we're talking about creating meaningful content, not just content that will just make you laugh or will not add value to you. And the findings reveal that respondents were able to create innovative and creative videos that are original to them, in addition to being meaningful for consumption. And in this respect, now we're able to identify librarians' transformative roles. And this implies that what Gen Z and Alpha cohort librarians are supposed to imbue in them the critical thinking skill, harnessing the Bloom taxonomy of remembering, applying, understanding, just like I said earlier. And the second skill set that the librarians need to imbue in Gen Z is the requisite AI information literacy skill, which is very, very sacrosanct at this time, which helps them to focus on engaging, creating, managing, and designing AI built on knowledge, skills, and attitude. And the third skill is the seamless navigation of the entrepreneur and AI research ecosystem. That means understanding what the entrepreneur ecosystem is and how they can navigate it seamlessly, being anchored by a librarian. And the fourth skill is entrepreneur and AI network skill, which implies that what are the things that is expected of entrepreneur and in the usage of AI. Are you supposed to just embark on any entrepreneurial venture without understanding that you need to create value, and your value has to be meaningful, and your value has to be sustainable over time? Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm done with the presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr.
I'm
Ubo.
sorry. I'm really sorry, my students. I don't know what happened to the presentation mode.
No,
I'm
no
really
worries.
sorry.
It worked out fine, I think. So if we can just share it out to everybody, and I think if there's anything they missed, they can read it there. Thank you so much for joining us today in the evening over there. Great information. And yeah, I look forward to seeing the presentation and seeing some more of the detail there too as well. Next, we have Jose Rincon from Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, California, with Africa-inspired entrepreneurship, a librarian's journey across 5 countries and countless ideas. So Jose, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. And I'm trying to it says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Any of the hosts? Okay, it looks like it's.
Try again, Jose. Sorry about that.
I think I'm there. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are now.
Okay, let me just get the right one on here. One moment. You're able to still see my screen?
Yep. Yeah, we see.
Okay.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. This past summer in June, I traveled for 16 days to 5 different countries in sub-Saharan Africa. I was awarded a travel and tuition scholarship from my university's Center for International Business Education to take part in the University of South Carolina Darla Moore School of Business Cyber Program. I traveled with a delegation of 20 business faculty from all over the US, and this is the first time a business librarian was accepted into the program. I hope that today's presentation inspires new ideas and insights. Let's dive right in. Before we dive into my journey across Southern Africa, I want to share the key objectives for today's presentation. Show how global field experiences can enhance library support for entrepreneurship. Highlight innovative African business models and their relevance for teaching entrepreneurship. Share ways to turn international experiences into curriculum support and scholarly output. And last here, demonstrate how librarians can use multimedia and guides to deepen global business learning. These are the 5 countries I visited in sub-Saharan Africa, which include Zambia and Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and last, South Africa. Today's presentation focuses on my time in Lusaka, Zambia. I'll highlight insights from 3 major companies and 2 organizations that are shaping local industry and community development. Zambia's estimated population for 2025 is 21.71 million, with Lusaka, its economic and cultural center, projected at approximately 3.47 million residents. These visits offered a unique window into the country's entrepreneurial landscape and the innovation emerging across its capital city. Our first company, Zambeef, started in 1994 in Lusaka, Zambia. Zambeef began as a small butchery sourcing cattle from nearby farms and supplying fresh beef to local markets. But the vision was much bigger, to create a business that could handle every stage of the process, from farming to food retail. Over time, Zambeef expanded into livestock, crop production, and dairy and retail, becoming one of Africa's leading integrated agribusinesses. Today, it continues to play a major role in Zambia's economy and food security. In July 2022, Faith Makutu became the first female Zambian CEO of Zambeef. Zambeef continues to invest in growth and expansion with several major projects underway or recently completed that are shaping its operations in Lusaka and across the country. In June, Zambeef reported 244 retail outlets in Zambia and 27 in Nigeria and 7 in Ghana. Zambeef has a diverse range of brands spanning agriculture and food, including Sam Chick and Sam Hatch for chicken and eggs. Zambeef is a major employer and a significant contributor to job creation and entrepreneurship in Zambia through its direct employment, vertical integration business model, and support for local small-scale farmers. Let's take a closer look at the brand Sam Shoe. Sam Shoe designs, manufactures, and markets a wide range of leather footwear, including school shoes for students and safety boots for workers. During my visit to Sam Shoe factory in Lusaka, I had the opportunity to see how locally processed cow leather is transformed into high-quality finished products. The tour began in the cutting area, where stacks of leather and rubber soles were neatly organized by size and style. We watched as workers operated hydraulic cutting machines to shape the individual components used in the shoe production. These photos captured key moments on the factory floor, highlighting the precision, skill, and hand-on craftsmanship that define Sam Shoe manufacturing process. Moving deeper into the factory, I entered the stitching and assembly area, a space full of small workstations where skilled workers were handcrafting each shoe. Using industrial sewing machines, they stitched and glued together the cut leather pieces, cutting the uppers of safety boots. The teamwork and attention to detail were impressive. Every worker seemed to master a particular step, from sewing and lining to shaping and trimming. The final stage involved lasting and finishing. Here, the stitching uppers were stretched and shaped around molds called lasts, then attached to the sole using industrial adhesive and stitching for durability. I watched as newly formed shoes were polished, checked for quality, and boxed for delivery. The combination of mechanical precision and human craftsmanship illustrated how Sam Shoe successfully integrates local materials, skilled labor, and modern production methods to produce quality Zambian-made footwear for schools, businesses, and communities. Zambeef headquarters also had a Sam Shoe retail store on site. I saw a range of locally footwear, including durable safety boots, casual leather shoes, and stylish boots on the shelves, all crafted from Zambian cow leather. The store proudly displayed pieces of processed leather, showing the quality of materials used in production. The visit highlighted the value of local manufacturing and the pride in turning Zambian resources into high-quality finished products. During my visit to Lusaka, I had the opportunity to tour Trade Kings Group, one of Zambia's leading manufacturing companies whose ethos is improving lives. These photos show the detergent production facility located in Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone, a major hub for industrial growth. The factory covered about 30,000 square meters and operates on an impressive scale. In the top center picture, you can see me with one of the workers at the entrance and a few views of the facility, including production area where raw materials are processed and fed into the machines. Trade Kings Group stands out for its commitment to innovation, local employment, and improving the lives of communities across Zambia. During our visit, we put on our orange vests and masks for safety before entering the facility where over 16,000 people are employed. Inside, we observed a large industrial machine breaking down raw detergent material. The picture in the center shows a vivid turquoise blue rock-like substance formed during the processing phase, the precursor to the final detergent product. We also visited another section of the factory where different sized plastic containers are created in real time, and machines apply branding labels for the Boom and the Aloha detergent lines. This behind the scenes glimpse highlights how scale, automation, and brand identity come together in the manufacturing process. These pictures show different stages of the detergent production at Trade Kings Group. The bottom middle picture shows a machine that is part of the plastic molding process that creates containers for branding like Boom and Aloha. We also see workers along the assembly lines overseeing the filling, labeling, and packaging of detergent, a clear reflection of the scale and coordination behind the company's operations. This slide highlights the final stages of production and distribution at Trade Kings Group. The film section is where large plastic sheets and packaging materials are produced, including the heavy-duty detergent bags seen here. We also observed machines creating plastic buckets for bulk detergent, and another section where liquid bottles are automatically filled. Workers play an important role in monitoring quality and inspecting packaged products before they're loaded for transport. The images to the far right of the slide show Banja and Hygienics trucks ready to deliver finished goods, a great example of how production and logistics connect to bring these products to market. Another company we visited in Lusaka was Jewels of Africa, a dynamic business involved in mining, jewelry design, manufacturing, and retail. The company is led by Rashmi Sharma, a talented woman entrepreneur and gemologist who specializes in gemstones such as diamonds, emeralds, and sapphires. Rashmi gave us an inside look at how this exquisite jewelry is crafted, and I had the chance to watch skilled artisans at their workstations, each carefully carrying out a specific step in the production process. Most of the workers here are refugees, and the owner, Rashmi, shared that she now primarily hires from this group after previous issues with local staff. Each artisan is carefully sorting, cutting, and polishing gemstones using specialized tools, ensuring every stone meets the highest standard before it becomes part of the exquisite jewelry. In our final stop, we had the privilege of meeting Rashmi in her private office, where she shared not only her deep knowledge of gemstones, but also her entrepreneurial vision. She walked us through her finest collections, explaining the chemical compositions, cuts, and the unique advantage of African gems, while also discussing pricing strategies that reflect both value and the market demand. Seeing how she combines expertise, creativity, and business insight to run her company was an incredible educational glimpse into entrepreneurship in action. Finally, at the Cotton Board of Zambia, we learned how the Handloom and Textile Technologies Association of Zambia partners with the International Trade Center to empower women through handloom weaving. Some women trained in India return to teach others this electricity-free technique, enabling them to produce blankets and other goods. This initiative gives women the skills, business knowledge, and market access to build sustainable micro enterprises and become entrepreneurs in the common cotton value chain. During my travels in Southern Africa, I had the chance to visit several memorable and iconic places, from the historic Nelson Mandela House in Soweto to the stunning Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, the breathtaking Victoria Falls on the Zambia-Zimbabwe border, and the cultural richness of Makuni Village in Zambia, and thrilling safari adventures in Botswana. Each experience offered a unique insight into the history, wildlife, natural beauty, and traditions of the region. As I reflect on this journey across Southern Africa, here are some takeaways. Global insights from Africa can strengthen entrepreneurial learning in libraries. Africa companies offer powerful examples of innovation, community impact, and value chain thinking. Librarians can enrich courses by connecting travel experiences to students, global business understanding. And last here, curated resources like LibGuides and original photos help translate field experiences into accessible learning tools. Before traveling to Southern Africa, I committed to bringing the experience back to my Loyola learning community. Since returning, I've shared stories and insights from the region with students, faculty, and staff, including visiting students from South Korea, incoming CBA graduate students, our new DBA cohort, and several international business, management, entrepreneurship, MBA, and business for good classes. By connecting these real-world examples to their coursework and our library resources, students gain a deeper understanding of global business and cultural contexts. These photos highlight the engagement across these diverse groups. My goal next year is to publish an article in Ticker based on insights from my travel in Southern Africa. I want to highlight how international business practices, entrepreneurship, and cultural contexts connect and how these real-world experiences can strengthen students' learning, curriculum design, and our business library resources. Let me just get into the chat here. Okay. In the chat, I'm entering a link to the Africa LibGuide I created to document and share my journey across these 5 countries in Southern Africa, featuring original photos and links that highlight the program's itinerary and the locations I visited. It is continuously being updated and new photos and content to further illustrate the business opportunities, cultural experiences, and insights gained from the trip. I hope that you can take a look at it sometime. Okay, we are at Q&A. My lights went off in my office and I thought it was my sensor, but let me stop sharing here.
Great. Do we have questions for Jose? You can type them in the chat or Luisa, did you have a or Janina?
Yeah, hand raised. Hi, how are you?
Howdy, Jose. Thank you so much for your presentation. It sounds like a wonderful adventure. I'm very interested in your next project. You talked about what you're going to do with that content, and I just opened up your LibGuide, and I will take a look at that. But I wondered if you'd give any sort of teasers about how you think that international experience will shape your librarianship where you're at now.
You know, recently I was invited by the Dean of the College of Business Administration to teach a 2-unit course, Business for Good, which relates to subsistence marketplaces. So I'm hoping to incorporate that experiences and those images and with the students within the curriculum to bring a little twist of my own experience. So that's one thing that I'm looking forward to this coming spring. As I'm right now, I'm currently looking at their layout for the 15 weeks that the course runs. So I'm in there busy building.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions? We have a couple minutes if needed. All right, well, thank you so much, Jose. Oh, yes, thank you so much, Jose, for sharing your experience and the great trip you had. And yeah, we look forward to seeing, what you come out with, as you said, sharing more about how this is informing your your librarianship at the university and learning more as you process that.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have a lightning talk by Sajeda from the Gayam Hospital Center Library in Iran with Designing the Medical Metaverse Library, a vision for supporting health entrepreneurship through virtual libraries. And we'll be watching a pre-recorded version of the talk. And so let us know when it comes up, just like volume, if you can hear and everything, and you may need to turn up your computer volume if it's a little quiet. And are we ready to share the video?
I think Angel's on it.
Okay.
In the name of God. My name is Sajeda Akbarzadeh, and my title, Designing the Medical Metaverse Library, a vision for supporting health entrepreneurship through visual libraries. I'd like to start by talking a little about Borderless Library. Back in 1978, Lancaster introduced the idea of giving everyone access to information anytime, anywhere. Today, the metaverse with VR, AR, AI, and the Internet of Things can challenge how we access information and use library services, while supporting health-focused entrepreneurship. Creating a medical metaverse library not only meets the needs of today's digital users, but also offers a future-oriented vision that links technology with health innovation. The keyword is metaverse, a 3D interactive space where users interact through avatars, medical library, a library in hospitals or medical centers, health entrepreneurship using innovative and creative ideas to improve healthcare, expand access, and reduce cost. Most studies on the metaverse in library are recent and from outside Iran, with limited domestic research. And key finding is literature review is user engagement and resource access, infrastructure, legal and security challenges, interactive and innovative experience. Most top academic libraries use VR, AR technologies. Design of future of the medical metaverse library. In this section, I will explain the main feature and capability of the medical metaverse library. A 3D interactive environment. A 3D interactive space where users explore with avatars. Specialist digital research provide access to medical books, articles, and 3D learning models. Visual education and simulation offers visual classes, study rooms, and clinical simulation. AI-powered librarian assistant use AI to guide the user and support information research. Health innovation space create a visual environment for developing health-related ideas. Global collaboration enable worldwide meeting, discussion, and joint research. And security and technical support ensure strong data protection and reliable system security. Up to this point, I have discussed medical library, the concept of the metaverse, previous research, and the future and capability of a medical metaverse library. Now, I would like to move on the role of Metaverse Library in supporting health entrepreneurship. It is best to begin this section with an important question. How can the design of a medical metaverse library support health entrepreneurship? There are several key points that help answer this question. First, it provides a collaborative environment where users can share ideas and develop solutions. Second, it offers rich resources like clinical data, 3D model, and simulation to support research and training. And the next, enable entrepreneurs to learn new skills and train others in a visual workshop. Fourth, a great opportunity of showcase idea, build brand, and commercialize product. And finally, medical librarians act as facilitators, helping the team access data and refine their project. However, there are also several challenges that need to be considered on this path. Security and privacy and intellectual property rights, for example, data leakage and manipulation risk. Infrastructure and cost, expensive hardware, software, or high-speed internet. Human resource, lack of trained specialists and user training. Health concerns, for example, physical and mental impact of prolonged VR use. And digital divide, unequal access to technology and connectivity. In conclusion, in many developing countries, access to up-to-date resources and interactive learning environment, especially in the medical field, remain as significant challenges. The role of library in supporting health entrepreneurship is still limited, particularly in hospital library, where the primary focus is on treatment. Metaverse technology can provide a novel way to empower and revitalize library. Transforming library into a space for idea generation, entrepreneurship, and health service design can strengthen their position within the healthcare system. Finally, medical metaverse library demonstrate that by enhancing the role of librarian, library can move beyond physical wall and play a key role in fostering innovation and entrepreneurs. This is an initial idea for design a medical metaverse library. It has been explored conceptually, and we have also started developing early content scenarios. References. If you have any question, please feel free to email me. Thank you for listening. Medical Metaverse Library can play a key role in innovation, learning, and health entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sajeda, for that really timely presentation. We are now going to take a quick break. Well, we have about 10 minutes. Come back promptly at 3:30 because we have our exciting panel on cannabis entrepreneurship and libraries after this.
All right. So, greetings, everyone, and welcome back. I am Orlando Duffus from the University of Houston, and I will be moderating the panel on cannabis and entrepreneurship, in libraries. This is an update to our groundbreaking 2021 conference, and now I will introduce our panelists. So first, we have Zara Salman, President of Cannabis Policy Coalition in Rhode Island. We also have Tim Tully from San Diego State University. We have Patricia Sherbanuk from the University of Alberta. Last, we have Jen Burns from the Central Library of Rochester and Monroe County in New York. So before we jump into this exciting panel, I just want to remind everyone to add your questions to the chat. And, we will get to those at the end. We do have some time for question and answers at the end. All right, so everyone is here. So let's jump into this exciting panel. So the first question we have is, how have the pain points of cannabis entrepreneurs evolved over the past 4 years, such as financial and regulatory challenges? And how have libraries adapted or introduced new strategies to support them in this changing environment? So who want to tackle that question first?
Okay, I guess I'll go because otherwise no one's talking. I would say, and again, I'm in New York State, so this is a New York perspective. Initially, now that all the lawsuits have resolved, that was the big issue when we were first starting out. But now it's more, the changes to the proximity in terms of where the border is. It was door to door, and now it's like property line to property line, and also taxes. So the 280E, and helping people trying to figure out how to mitigate that, kind of the oppressive tax nature of being in that business.
I will speak from the Canadian side of things. So as far as that is concerned, and I'm going off actually a paper that was written by a couple of students. I'm a former business librarian, but I also oversee a liaison area called ELC, so it's agriculture, life and environmental sciences. So they wrote a paper, Barriers to Licensed Cannabis Production in Canada, a Cursory Examination, Jessica Roth and Dave Tawaya. So I'm going off a lot of what they found in their research. The pain points have not changed very much in Canada. There's still a lot of barriers, including legal, economic, social, representational, and financial aspects. The realities that producers are facing are not reflected in law. And also, and again, this is specific to Canada. Yes, cannabis is legal countrywide, but the laws differ from province to province. So the logic sort of makes no sense, and it's just not cohesive across provinces. So that's sort of an ongoing issue as far as the Canadian cannabis business is going.
From California, I would say a lot of it is still navigating government and the fact that things change kind of year over year. We're fortunate that I think our public government infrastructure with like the Department of Cannabis Control, like as a librarian, like navigating government publications, makes some of that easier. And then there's different ordinances in different areas. So a lot of the, like the growth production stuff is businesses up in the north and not stuff that really I think about too much down in Southern California. But we have, restrictions with the ordinances of how many production facilities, how many retail facilities, whether they can be within what zones in San Diego, the can't be within like 1,000 feet of a school. So just tracking these various, you know, updates. And I think our law libraries usually do a pretty good job. So like at least just on a reference librarian standpoint, like I've looked at like programs from like the state law library or like local law libraries, a lot of, and I mean, access to capital and all that stuff is important. But again, like we have, you know, different support programs through the governor's office and through the Department of Cannabis Control. So we, you know, I kind of do a lot of just referring to GoBiz and like the governor's office of business and economic development. So basically, most of the stuff that isn't the same kind of questions that any business is going to have with market research is regulatory, and that includes like finance, like whether they can pay with cash or card and things like that.
In Rhode Island, I could speak a bit more generally on this topic, but well, we actually just got our regulations this year for the cannabis industry. Recreational cannabis became legal 3 years ago now. So a lot has changed. Prior to that, we were medical from 2012 to 2021. And we actually, right now, currently, we have about 7 or 8 dispensaries in the entire state currently. However, what's interesting is they just released the application for the new licenses. 6 of which are going to go to social equity social equity applicants. And social equity are people who have been impacted by the war on drugs. The other 6 are reserved for cooperative businesses, and then the other 12 are reserved for anyone who wants a recreational cannabis license. So what's interesting is that opened up in September. And then the head of our Cannabis Control Commission, which a Cannabis Control Commission wasn't even formed until about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. But the head of our Cannabis Control Commission, she just left to run for Attorney General. And then our Cannabis Control Commission is made up of 3 people. She was the only paid person on the commission. So then one of the other people, he's actually on paternity leave currently. So currently we have one person that's really serving as the Cannabis Control Commission currently. Meanwhile, licenses are due in December 29th at 4 p.m. So it's just going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I feel like Rhode Island is just like kind of in the wild, wild west of cannabis, but yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, there's a lot of red tape, blue tape, all over the nation for entrepreneurs who are looking to, expand nationally. I know recently in Texas, the governor vetoed a bill to do an all-out ban on cannabis, and so yeah, it's a ever evolving situation, right? All right, so let's move on to the next question. I know there are a lot of librarians here and other library partners who are probably trying to figure out initiatives and looking for partners. So this next question is for you guys for ideas. So the question is, can you share examples of successful partnership between libraries and cannabis-related businesses or nonprofits?
In Rochester, we were fortunate enough to have a nonprofit organization called New York Hemp Lab, and they provided all of our programming. And so we had a program called Get Weeding at RPL, and that was a workforce development initiative where people received their cannabis 15-hour certification to be a bud tender. That was in partnership with Cannabis Workforce Initiative, which is a part of the Industrial Development Agency of New York. And then also Hemp Lab would do our other programming. So each week we would have a topic on, cultivation, legal issues, you name it. And so they would do that. And then actually it turns out that Hemp Lab gave all of their money and their IP to us, to the library. So we are now basically New York Hemp Lab as well.
I could speak about a successful partnership I was a part of last year. The Parabola Center for Law and Policy is a think tank based out of Boston, Massachusetts. So once a year, they've been hosting these crash courses, and last year they came to Providence. So their main event was in the Providence Library. And they ultimately, I was a part of the fundraiser. So our Cannabis Policy Coalition, we co-sponsored the fundraiser. But for the majority of the day, the main event was in the library, and they brought speakers from all over the country just to speak about how we could develop as leaders, how we could prioritize or ensure that the industry is anti-monopoly, or try to push towards an industry that doesn't monopolize the businesses. Um, so it was a successful event, and it was a sold out event. They did have to pay for the space, but it just brought together a lot of thought leaders across the country just to brainstorm on how we could make this a better industry for small businesses across the country.
From the California perspective, I've seen, programs and stuff with like the law libraries, but I've seen other things like partnerships through the universities that aren't really like connected to the libraries. And I've pulled a couple examples where I've looked and seen these partnerships, and I didn't even see LibGuides at these universities on this topic. And I don't even have a specific cannabis LibGuide at my institution because our entrepreneurship uh, incubator does not allow cannabis businesses to be submitted, but we do have resources that I just look on a reference perspective. But one of the CSUs is working with industry to do like certification programs. And I don't know. I've always viewed my role as like a connector, and I have friends that work in the cannabis industry, both in the business side and on the journalistic side. So if I get those questions, I've been like, hey, do you know of organizations that do X, Y, and Z in addition to, the normal kind of nonprofit research we do, and try to make those connections. But I haven't seen too many examples in California outside of the law libraries. There is a cool one where Berkeley is documenting the, kind of legacy cannabis genetics, and they're doing kind of an archival project on that, which is pretty cool. So I put some of those links of what I've seen in California, but there's not too much examples other than programming I've seen from the law libraries.
And from the Canadian perspective, there might be in other provinces or whatever. I haven't really heard of any. I'm from an academic institution, so aside from, helping with research and things like that, nothing's come to my attention about any kind of partnership. But I would be interested to see, I didn't really have time to sort of explore this, but to see if the public library has had any sort of, because I think a lot of people who would be interested in it might go to the public library for help, and not an academic library. So I don't know of any right now, but I'm sure it's going to be an evolving platform for sure.
Yeah, the important thing to remember in the US, if it's not legal in your state currently, and you're not really active in this space, is that you can't work with the Small Business Administration or the Small Business Development Center, because those are both federally funded. So don't bother approaching any type of federally funded agency, because they will not be able to help you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Patricia, that was a good point too about public libraries. So if there are people in the audience who are at public libraries or know of, potential partnership opportunities or examples from public libraries, please feel free to share those in the chat. And speaking of the chat, there are a lot of helpful resources there. So those are always welcome. So check those out.
I just wanted to, just to pop in here. Sorry, Tim mentioned sort of LibGuides. We don't have a LibGuide here at U of A on cannabis research, but there are some Canadian academic institutions that do have LibGuides for cannabis research specifically. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So it sounds like two of the really good partners are, your local think tanks and, maybe even your law libraries. So That's good. So, speaking of law, our next question is one of the question we explored in the 2021 version of this, and so we kind of wanted to, bring that back up again. So, this is a two-part question. So the question is, what are the most significant barriers faced by marginalized communities in cannabis entrepreneurship, especially around capital, licensing, education, and stigma? Also, how can libraries actively promote equity and restorative justice in this space? And what promising models or initiatives are helping reduce these barriers? So it's a mouthful.
I could speak a bit about the social equity side of things. So I think across the country, you see people talk about social equity when it comes on to cannabis. And what that is they're trying to acknowledge that there were marginalized communities impacted by the war on drugs. So now that cannabis is legal, what can we do to, support these communities or help these communities to acknowledge the history of the war on drugs? So in Rhode Island, we do have six social equity cannabis licenses available. That's a small number, but in the entire state right now, they're capping the licenses at 33. So, so with those social equity licenses, there's supposed to be 4 people impacted by the war on drugs. However, the work that my coalition did, we found some loopholes in the bill itself, where it was like, okay, we're going to use licensing fees and penalties to fund the social equity fund, which is a fund that is supposed to help these social equity businesses with grants and technical assistance programs, helping them understand the landscape of the industry. But they're actually removing a large portion, over 95% of the money that's supposed to go into that fund, and they're putting it back into the general fund. So that's one of the loopholes we found, and we're trying to change the legislation so that there's actual money in the social equity fund. And another thing, which isn't a loophole, but what our organization is trying to do is use a portion of the cannabis taxes to go back into the low-income communities that have been designated as areas that were impacted by the war on drugs. And that would improve their education, housing, and healthcare. So we've tried for the past 2 years in a row. We've had 2 House bills, a Senate bill, and we're going to have another House bill and a Senate bill this year. Hopefully it passes. Because currently, even though they have social equity, it's like social equity in name only. These licenses are ripe to be taken advantage of. Licensing fees are $30,000 in Rhode Island. That dropped for recreational, but that dropped if you wanted a hybrid dispensary, it was going to be about $500,000 for that license. So capital is the largest barrier, I think, for marginalized communities to get into the space. So again, with our bill, we're hoping that the cannabis taxes can help to alleviate that issue. But at the same time, I think what our coalition wants folks to acknowledge is that, all right, we had this industry that impacted folks in negative ways. Our bill acknowledges that cannabis prohibition harmed communities financially, emotionally, and psychologically. And in our bill, it says especially children. So if you're truly going to atone for they say it's a 40-year war on drugs, but cannabis was really made illegal in 1937. So almost nearly 80 years, cannabis was used as a trope to harm communities. We want to see a little bit more done. So in addition to the cannabis taxes funding these technical assistance programs for social equity businesses, we do want to see a bit of the money go back into the communities that impact folks in a positive way, especially children. So yeah, I think the largest barrier overall is definitely capital, and definitely people try to just be sneaky with the legislation and, say they're doing a lot of things for marginalized communities, but when you actually look into it, they're not actually doing much.
Yeah, it's similarly in New York, our first round of dispensary licenses were for people who had a marijuana-related conviction. So you could not apply for a license if you did not have a marijuana-related conviction. But they made it a little more difficult because then they said you have to have a conviction and you have had to have successfully run a legal business for 5 years. So that cut down the number of people that could apply. But eventually, the biggest issue was for the card licenses, which is conditional adult use recreational dispensary, those people that were awarded that license, they were supposed to be given a dispensary, like turnkey. Here's your dispensary, just, go. And that never, ever, ever came to fruition, despite the fact that the state had set aside $200 million to do just that. So, I've worked with people that have a license and they can't afford to start the dispensary. So it really it really did not do what it intended to do.
I guess from California, part of Prop 16 in 2016 was to take money to support these sort of initiatives. And there is the Cannabis Equity Grant Program, but you know, just like the licenses are competitive, these grant programs are competitive, and you know, the amount of money seems like a big amount of money, but when you look at the cost of what these licenses are, you know, and then all the other startup costs, it might not be that big amount of money. And it's kind of unevenly distributed what of the 34 local jurisdictions are more likely to get the money. And some of this is things that I don't know with a level of transparency. But here's kind of a press release that the governor's office put out. Like, it's not an insubstantial amount of money. So, you know, over the last, you know, number of years, 18.5 million in grant funding has been sent out. But, you know, capital and navigating government and all of those regulatory hurdles are the big issue. There are nonprofits here trying to educate people on how to navigate these issues from more marginalized communities. So some of our speakers at the last ELC was this group, our Academy, and I was connected to them because my friend who runs a cannabis company called Old Pal partners with them. So like when nonprofits start partnering with, you know, kind of existing businesses and people who've already kind of successfully navigated the space, that's another area where these pain points can be alleviated. But I see the same pain points here, and all I can really do is try to keep track of where the paperwork is and who they should talk to try to get the paperwork done and make that handoff, which is kind of a lot of what library services is anyway, is if it's not information, research, answer, it's who do we hand the patron off to get that professional expertise.
Okay, I've got a lot to say about this. In Canada, there are major barriers for Black, Indigenous people and women who are notably absent from leadership positions within Canadian cannabis industry, specifically Indigenous people. So the different issues with Indigenous people here is that they have their own laws for their lands that are not the same as Health Canada. So if they're trying to comply, if Health Canada makes them comply, you know, with their regulations and things like that, it can be seen as a treaty violation. So there's all kinds of legal ramifications around that. There's legal issues accessing capital, and also that suggested by a couple of the authors that these students who wrote the paper suggested was that Indigenous beliefs surrounding cannabis are shaped by history, spiritual, and health-related factors, which are mostly ignored in the mainstream cannabis policy. The regulatory framework fails to respect Indigenous sovereignty. So it just different sets of regulations. The compliance costs are high. Yeah, again, regulatory complexity. However, there is a report that was released in 2023 by our Center on Drug Policy Evaluation, who they offered recommendations for advancing more equitable cannabis policies. So recommendations is that the purpose of the Cannabis Act be expanded to include promotion of social responsibility and social equity with cannabis, inclusion of people from underrepresented racial groups and genders, with a focus on people adversely reacted by cannabis prohibition. Look at employment opportunities, things like that, full amnesty for people with previous cannabis convictions, and reinvestment of cannabis taxes into social and economic programs aimed at repairing the harms of cannabis prohibition. So a lot of work to be done. And again, with these different regulations happening, it is a definite barrier for our Indigenous community.
Thank you. That was a lot of information. Not surprising that a lot of the attempts at restorative justice appears to be performative in some ways, but I appreciate you all and many of others that are advocating and fighting for more opportunities for marginalized communities or historically excluded communities. So yeah, thank you for that.
I have a quick question for the other panelists.
Yeah.
For New York, our equity license, which is for minorities and women, Asians are not considered a minority, which is, I have no idea what the rationale around that was, but I was just wondering, in your areas, are Asians considered a minority for your equity, for the equity aspect?
Well, in Rhode Island, so to be qualified to be a social equity applicant, it has nothing to do with race and more to do with where you grew up. And part of it is because our regulations came about this year. So everything that's happening federally, they didn't want to get sued because they were already getting sued for something else. But yeah, it's mostly to do with where you are from. But yeah, Asians are considered a minority, I believe, in just other aspects of Rhode Island. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and we have it too, it's, where you grew up, what was your zip code, things so there's a lot of other aspects to it, but in terms of just, ethnicity, they're specifically not included. Yeah, just weird. I know. Okay.
That's a very interesting question. I mean, a lot of the reports that they read for this this paper just mentions people of color. So I don't know if that includes Asians or not, but that's a very interesting question that I don't have an answer to.
I haven't seen in our license applications. We have and I have mixed opinions on this. I do think guaranteeing the licenses is for people from those backgrounds is good, but then it also creates more complexity in navigating that opposed to just giving people money to then be competitive in a more just transparent, this is the kind of license you're applying for, and then these applications get it, which is kind of, I think, how California works. I haven't seen anything about the licenses being held for certain types of applicants, but there's the grant program. But as far as in the way our university works and what counts as underrepresented minority in higher ed in California, Asian does not count as underrepresented minority. And that is also in our faculty counts of when we have our faculty hiring targets in the CSU. So if we had those kind of provisions which we might, in California, that could be the same case here.
Thank you. Thank you for this discussion. So as we look ahead, I just want to really quickly just we have about 5 more minutes of discussion before we get into the Q&A. So the final question we have today is, what do you see as the future role of libraries in supporting cannabis entrepreneurship? And how can they proactively prepare for evolving laws and market trends?
I'll pop in here. One thing that I think libraries can do is, offer help to these marginalized communities, things like that. Advocacy for policy reform. So if that directly access or address equity issues, reducing barriers for entry to small businesses, community-led development, things like that. One thing these two students did find was when they were looking up industry research, is that a lot of the industry research came from authors that didn't actually had never owned their own cannabis business or anything like that. So they found it quite frustrating that it didn't relate to real life. So their suggestions were to to get more sort of industry information from industry publications, from insiders kind of thing. So yeah, they just found that there was a lot of misinformation out there about the cannabis industry and growing practices and things like that. They argued for better subscriptions for things like StratCan and Cannabis Business Times and things like that, because they found that so many of the academic articles that they found were not understanding the industry. So that's something that that libraries, I think, can do, is just like, get better insider information about the industry than is currently available.
I think offering free spaces, especially to nonprofits in the cannabis space who are just trying to get information to the people. I know different cannabis control commissions across the country, they offer technical assistance programs for people who are impacted by the war on drugs and need that active support as they start their business and run their business. So offering space for those technical assistance programs, just to ensure that folks don't have to go through the barrier of paying for these different spaces. I know for me, when I started my activism work 2 years ago, I was in between jobs. So it was really, I was only able to get some of the word out to folks by dispensaries who gave me free space to, have these community conversations. So free space.
I think it's varies based on the type of library and the structure of your library. So public libraries are a lot better equipped for kind of the programming and booking public room space than potentially academic libraries. And in academic institutions, sometimes a lot of that programming and support services is through an entrepreneurship center or an incubator who may have a stance that we don't support cannabis entrepreneurship, and that's not a decision that I get to make in the library, right? So there's the polity of your institution is gonna, and the org structure will determine the level of services. We used to subscribe to Cannabis News Bank, which has a lot of those trade journals. We ended up canceling it because of low use, but what I found is we still have the cannabis plugin on the Euromonitor Passport. So there's a lot of work that librarians can do with AI and news searches and finding trade associations and conferences to figure out where the industry communication is happening. I think actually San Diego did host MJ BizCon one year, so that I think there's opportunity for collaboration with programming and at the level of comfortability that your organization or your partners within the organization has in allowing you to do that. Otherwise, it's more we're connecting people to the sources, external, and that's kind of as far as we can go if that's the case.
I was just going to mention, I mean, again, being at an academic institution, it'd be great booking spaces, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of our licenses for our business, or our industry databases and marketing databases are specifically tied to current students and current staff and faculty. So that's something we can't do much about. But allowing access to that information is something that the public library, I think, would be more useful for finding free information, things like that, because the licensing is so tight on some of those that we just can't offer sort of external access to them. We've been asked many, many times, and we could lose the product altogether if we break that license. So
I think in the future for New York, a lot of people in New York do not want the federal prohibition lifted because they believe then that everything's just going to be from California and the people growing in New York are just going to be cut out of that process. So if that is the case, it'll probably just be helping people, figure out how competitive, how they can be more competitive. But Steve's question about resources, Cannabis Benchmarks has been around for a long time, but that has some good information. And dispensary owners are, 99.9% of the people in the cannabis industry are like really nice people. They want to help. They'll share information. So I've never seen anyone say, no, I'm not going to share information with you. So if you had a question on operating your dispensary, I would say reach out to another dispensary owner. And they'll definitely, at least here, they're more than happy to help you and they don't view it as, a threat to their competitiveness.
I do see opportunities for vendors of data products to try to get in and get some POS data. Like there's uh, systems like Flow Hub. Like so, if someone like Dewey Data got access to cannabis POS data that could be licensed, like that would be the addition I would like to see. I haven't seen too much more information other than those like kind of consumer survey stuff through like Mintel and IBIS and you know Passport Euromonitor. But if somebody on the data front did yeah, point of sale data for dispensaries at an academic license, that would be fascinating and that's my sale to Dewey Data to try to go talk to some of these companies.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for an engaging conversation. So now it's time for Q&A. The only question in the chat so far is the question that is already addressed. So if you all have any question, feel free to unmute and ask them. We'll take a 10-second pause. Let's see. Question. And by the way, earlier we asked the audience to engage by sharing partnership opportunities with public libraries or that public librarians may know of. And I think somebody shared something about, was it flow counseling or something like that? What was it? Flower hour, one-on-one counseling. So I'm guessing that sounds like either business development or mental health counseling or something, but I would go with business development. So it seems like public libraries are having some partnerships out there with other agencies. Seems like government agency in this example.
I would say for
Anything
public
else?
libraries, it really, really helps if your mayor is on board with what you're doing. So we had a very, very supportive mayor. We were featured in High Times. So our government really embraced this, and so that I think has made a huge, huge difference for us.
Yeah, someone did confirm that flower hour is business counseling. So awesome. Okay, since there are no questions or no brave souls to pick up the mic, we have a audience engagement question. So this question is kind of for the audience or anybody who want to participate in it. So what questions or concerns do you hear most often from your patrons or community members about cannabis entrepreneurship? And how do you communicate the library's role in addressing these concerns or questions? And I know this kind of came up somewhat in some of your responses so far, the panelist response, but yeah, it would be great to hear the audience's response to this question.
Or you could just tell us if you prefer indica or sativa. That's more entertaining.
I know, favorite method of consumption.
Yeah, I'm a gummy girl.
I like edibles myself. One of my friends, she actually makes a cannabis infused cojito for the holidays and mixes it with rum. It's dangerous.
I bet. Yeah, I have asthma, so I cannot smoke anything, but yeah. Oh, Pennsylvania. Yeah. Oh, drinks. Yeah, I have some drinks in my fridge.
Yeah,
I
Monica, go
I'm
ahead.
a gummy girl as well, but you can go down a slippery slope with gummies sometimes when it's like, oh, I'll just have a little bit more and then you're in
Yeah. You're
trouble.
like, it's nothing, it's not doing anything. Let's have more. Consume responsibly. We should probably, make that disclaimer.
Mhm. Yeah, to LaMonica's point, and I think Jen mentioned this earlier, that if still illegal in your state, then you probably will not get a lot of question there unless it's out of state question or something.
Mhm.
There
I
could be
think,
federal changes though too, like the places that are selling like the hemp drinks. I was just at the Charleston conference and the bars were selling the hemp drinks, which I found very interesting because California is very clear on consumption of alcohol and marijuana in the same establishment is very much separate. But the new uh, refunding the government bill is changing the federal rules on hemp, so that may not be something I see in Charleston next year.
yeah, Steve, that thing, that drink, it's not Delta 9, so it's more like a CBD because we have those here too, but we're not, New York does not allow the sale of cannabis beverages at all for whatever reason. But yeah, so they have those at a lot of bars, but it's not the exact, it's not going to be as strong.
Tim and I were
In
at a
Rhode Island,
conference in Charleston, South Carolina, 2 weeks ago. And of course, we knew that he was going to be on this wonderful panel with you all. And Tim, I'm going to just say this, but you can jump in if you want to and add something else. But he went into one of these places and say, "Hey, I'm from California, and I think Tim, you said, I'm surprised that this is legal. Tell me how you do it." And it was interesting hearing Tim doing some market research for this panel, kind of when we were at this conference in South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, coming from California, I'm just accustomed to the way things are done here, and I haven't paid too much attention to the differences elsewhere, So it's always interesting to step into a new state and see how it's done.
Yeah, I think someone commented, yeah, there's a ton of illegal dispensaries, even in states where it's legal. I mean, we have a ton in New York. And the thing is most people don't understand that it's illegal. They're like, but it was right there on Main Street. And I'm like, it's still illegal, if they don't have a license. Um, so it is, it's even like just the garden variety consumer doesn't really understand the difference between a legal and illegal dispensary. So
yeah. Then there's another question in the chat about dosages, and how a lot of cannabis companies they're catering to like higher dosages, which is I think the cannabis industry is catering to a recreational market currently, and they just want that higher and higher THC. But there are testing labs to answer your question. There are testing labs. Every single product that is you see in a legal dispensary has been lab tested, and it does say how much THC is in it, CBD, and then sometimes either other cannabinoids as well. So talk with your bud tender about what you want and what you're trying to experience.
I think Zara hit something really perfect on this of talking to your bud tender because I do see this as a consumer taste thing, especially like since they're able to test for this. So my personal friend who I go on surf trips with, who started Old Pal, his entire business model was taking product that didn't meet higher THC desired standards of those growers, and instead of it being dead stock that they throw away, he takes it and basically is a licensing packaging brand and sells it as like ye old $25 eighth, like dad weed, kind of So I view it in California in the same way that IPAs went off. We went in beer where everyone wants the hoppiest 10+% beer, and then eventually the taste of the consumer goes, I just want like a regular 4% beer. So I do see that the ability to control that is there, and what companies are doing to react to changes in consumer demand is changing over time as well.
Yeah, well, awesome. This was an, exciting conversation, and I'm glad we got to do the 2.0 from the 2021 conference. And so, yes, what a great panel. So I want to say many thanks to Zara, Tim, Patricia, and Jen. And that this wraps up the official programming of day 2 of the ELC International Conference and how libraries and librarians around the world support entrepreneurship in their communities and campuses. So please stay tuned for an unrecorded networking discussion. A big thank you to our speakers, panelists, planners, sponsors, and of course to all of you for joining us today. The recordings of today's session will soon be available on our website. We hope you'll stick around for some networking and fellowship that will happen shortly. We also invite you to connect with us in our online community on LinkedIn and keep an eye on our website for the latest updates. Now, our planning team will lead us in our networking session. Thank you.